We've got some breaking news to bring you out of Wall Street right now. We are watching the opening of the U.S. markets one day after stocks surged on news that U.S. tariffs on dozens of countries would be put on hold for 90 days. But it looks like the markets might be heading lower once again amid the ongoing trade war with China, which was exempt from that tariff freeze. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us now as we'll keep an eye on what the numbers are as it opens. But we know, Europe doing well. China, overseas, Asian markets doing well. But right now, the Dow looks like it's down about 700 points right off the bat.
Yeah, almost 2%. And the S&P 500 down 2.2%. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ down about 2.7%. So it seems like markets are coming down a little bit from those highs that we saw yesterday where we had record days. I mean, let's just call it what it is. We saw records blasted through in terms of the percentage gain, 9, 10, 12%, depending on what index you were looking at yesterday. Records that we haven't seen since, I believe, World War II in terms of a single day gain. But we're now losing some of that with the S&P 500 again down 2% and the Dow 30 now down 1.7% in just the first minute of trading here. I do think that the overall headline here is that markets, which were still pretty excited about the announcement from President Trump yesterday, announcing that he was going to de-escalate this trade war with the rest of the world, with the exception of China, where he then ratcheted up the tariffs even further from 104% as originally planned for that day to 125%. You do worry about what's going to come of that. It's not to be forgotten that, even though this trade war has kind of narrowed to essentially one country, that one country is the second largest economy in the world. So that's still going to impact things like electronics and clothing and shoes, all those things that we buy so much from China.
Is this sort of reality setting in after sort of the relief or the breath that everyone took yesterday? People looking ahead and realizing there's still worries about a recession, there's still worries about the trade war. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I do think so. And look, when it comes to investors and the action that we've seen in the past few days, it could go any which way. I mean, yeah, certainly we are down, as of a minute into the trading day, but we have seen crazy swings over the last few days. And I think that the overall point is that volatility in this market is probably still going to be here despite the announcement yesterday, because there is that uncertainty over what happens with China next. We know that for 90 days, we're going to have that temporary stay on any sort of ratcheting up further for tariffs of all those dozens of countries that we were talking about in the last few days. But when it comes to China, there's no deadline there. All we heard from the president was, well, China wants to make a deal, which sounds encouraging, but there's no timeline of that. There's no conversation of that. I mean, if you rewind to the first Trump administration, it might be back to that type of news cycle where we're just watching very closely when there's a meeting on the books, when a high-level Chinese official comes to visit Washington, or when someone from Washington goes to visit Beijing. That could be the way that this goes about over the next few months. But again, I was talking about this on the Today Show. There's real worries that pricing could be impacted for the holidays. If you're someone that's trying to buy a toy, there's a possibility that that item might not be on the shelf come Christmas time. I know people don't want to think about shopping right now, but it's because of the fact that it takes 6 months to get something onto a boat to come over here to the United States. Companies are trying to plan for that, and it's really hard to plan around this.
And if we have these high tariffs sticking with China, how long is it before we do start to see our prices increase here?
Yeah, well, I mean, the president said on Truth Social that the increase to 125% was effective immediately. So as of yesterday, in theory, it should have already been ratcheted up. But I want to point out, actually, interestingly, neither the White House team have not seen a executive order that actually outlines exactly how that would be done, or that the tariff rate has, in fact, been increased to 125%. But in theory, once that takes place, it's not long before Customs and Border Protection has to start collecting that from boats that are offloading items at the Port of Los Angeles or any of the other ports in the United States. So it might not be long before we see those price increases, but I think that it's not necessarily that you'll expect to see a 125% price increase as of tomorrow. It's going to take weeks, maybe months for that to get passed along.
We know some analysts and even some well-known business leaders have been warning of the possibility of a recession. Those odds seem to go up last week. Did what happened yesterday change that at all?
Well, what was so interesting was that as the president made that announcement on Truth Social that he was going to de-escalate this trade war with every country that's not named China, I got an email from Goldman Sachs detailing that they had raised the odds of a recession in the United States to 65% as a result of the tariffs, which they saw at the time as not likely to be pared back by President Trump, and then he pared them back. So then Goldman actually retracted the recession call and said, actually, we're going to go back to our original call, which I believe was the odds of a recession being somewhere around 40%. So you do have a number of Wall Street banks that are watching this, but the problem is that all of their predictions and all of their forecasts are now outdated because of the change in the policy here. So I bet today we're going to get a lot more commentary from those types over whether or not this has changed the game. But I do think that with markets, you're kind of seeing already this coming back down of, oh, okay, wait, we were so excited that the tariff war was de-escalated, but wait, we're still in a massive trade war with the second largest economy in the world, which is China.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.